The first poem I'll read is called Poem in Three Parts. Part 1. Oh, on an early morning, I think I shall live forever. I am wrapped in my joyful flesh, as the grass is wrapped in its clouds of green. 2. Rising from a bed where I dreamt of long rides past castles and hot coals, the sun lies happily on my knees. I have suffered and survived the night, bathed in dark water like any blade of grass. 3. The strong leaves of the box elder tree, plunging in the wind, call us to disappear into the wilds of the universe, where we shall sit at the foot of a plant and live forever like the dust. I'll read a poem I wrote for my horse. It's the first poem I've ever written for a horse. It's called September Night with an Old Horse. Part 1. Tonight I rode through the cornfield in the moonlight. The dying grass is still, and the dark weeds are waiting as if underwater. 2. In Arabia, the horses live in the tents, near dark gold and water and tombs. 3. How beautiful to walk out at midnight in the moonlight, dreaming of animals. This is called Driving Through Ohio. Part 1. We slept that night in Delaware, Ohio, a magnificent and sleepy country, oak country, sheep country, sod country. We slept in a huge white tourist home with National Geographics on the table. 2. North of Columbus there is a sort of torpid joy, the slow and muddy river, the white barns leaning into the ground, cottonwoods with their trunks painted white, and houses with small observatories on top, as if Ohio were the widow's coast, looking over the dangerous Atlantic. 3. Now we drive north past the white cemeteries, so rich in the morning air. All morning I have felt the sense of death. I am full of love, and love this torpid land. Some day I will go back and inhabit again the sleepy ground where Harding was born.
The name. Be natural, wise, as you can be, my daughter. Let my name be in you flesh I gave you in the act of loving your mother. All your days, her ways, the woman in you brought from sensuality's measure, no other. There was no thought of it but such pleasure all women must be in her as you, but not wiser, not more of nature than her hair, the eyes she gives you. There will not be another woman such as you are. Remember your mother, the way you came, the days of waiting. Be natural, daughter, wise as you can be, all my daughters. Be women for men. When that time comes, let the rhetoric stay with me, your father. Let me talk about it, saving you such vicious self-exposure. Let you pass it on in you. I cannot be more than the man who watches. The carnival. Whereas the man who hits the gong disproves it in all its simplicity, even so the attempt makes for triumph in another man. Likewise in love I am not foolish or incompetent. My method is not a tenderness, but hope defined. The rescue. The man sits in a timelessness, with the horse under him in time, to a movement of legs and hooves upon a timeless sand. Distance comes in from the foreground, present in the picture as time. He reads outward from, and comes from that beginning. A wind blows in and out and all about the man, as the horse ran and runs to come in time. A house is burning in the sand. A man and horse are burning. The wind is burning. They are running to arrive.
Man's greed and envy are so great. Man's greed and envy are so great, he'll go to any length or date to beat down his fellow man, if beat him down he can. Though under dread he cower, he'll do it in the name of power, that obvious, that visible success prove to the world his canniness. And let Christ go, let truth hang, praise the fang and the tooth, force life through like a bawling youth, the truant animal in action. Praise to the thinkers and the dreamers, those dear, quaint, saintly creatures. They evade the blood to build the brain, philosophic men who love the sun. If I could only live at the pitch that is near madness, if I could only live at the pitch that is near madness, when everything is as it was in my childhood, violent, vivid, and of infinite possibility, that the sun and the moon broke over my head. Then I cast time out of the trees and fields. Then I stood immaculate in the ego. Then I eyed the world with all delight. Reality was the perfection of my sight. And time has big handles on the hands, fields and trees a way of being themselves. I saw battalions of the race of mankind standing stolid, demanding a moral answer. I gave the moral answer and I died, and into a realm of complexity came, where nothing is possible but necessity, and the truth wailing there like a red babe. The cancer cells. Today I saw a picture of the cancer cells, sinister shapes with menacing attitudes. They had outgrown their test tube and advanced, sinister shapes with menacing attitudes, into a world beyond, a virulent, laughing gang. They looked like art itself, like the artist's mind, powerful shaker and the taker of new forms. Some are revulsed to see these spiky shapes. It is the world of the future to come to. Nothing could be more vivid than their language. Lethal, sparkling, and irregular stars, the murderous design of the universe, the hectic dance of the passionate cancer cells. Oh, just phenomena to the calculating eye, originals of imagination. I flew with them in a piled exuberance of time, my own malignants in their racy, beautiful gestures, quick and lean. And in their riot, too, I saw the stance of the artists make, the fixed form in the massive fluxion. I think Leonardo would have, in his disinterest, enjoyed them precisely with a sharp pencil.
The Lone Ranger. Anarchic badlands spread without a road, and from the river west no turned-up loam. No farmer prayed for rain, no settler's horse, but one time blundered, riderless to home. Unfriendly birds would gather in the air, a circling kind of tombstone. As for the law, a marshal only lived if he could beat his image in a mirror to the draw. So now he rode upon a silver horse. He stood for law and order. Anarchy, like flood or fire, roared through every gate, but he and Tonto hid behind a tree, and when the bandits met to split the loot, he blocked the door. With silver guns he shot the quick, sick shooters from their snatching hands and took them off to jail and let them rot. For him, the Badlands were his mother's face. He made an order where all order lacked, from Hanged Boy Junction to the Rio Grande. Why did he wear a mask? He was abstract. The jealous lovers. When he lies in the night away from her, the backs of his eyelids burn. He turns in the darkness as if it were an oven. The flesh parches and he lies awake, thinking of everything wrong. He remembers the name of a man and a weekend before they loved each other. His mind in its tight corner watches a scene by the ocean last summer, or is it next summer he watches? In the morning, when he goes to meet her, his heart struggles at his ribs like an animal trapped in its burrow. Then he sees her running to meet him. Red-faced with hurry and cold, she stumbles over the snow, her knees above orange knee socks bob in a froth of the hems of skirt and coat and petticoat. Her eyes have not shut all night. Self-portrait as a bear. Here is a fat animal, a bear that is partly a dodo. Ridiculous wings hang at his shoulders as if they were collarbones, while he plods in the bad brickyards at the edge of the city, smiling and eating flowers. He eats them because he loves they love him. It is eating flowers which makes him so fat. He carries his huge stomach over the gutters of bare leaves in the parking lots in October, but inside that paunch, he knows there are fields of lupin and meadows of mustard and poppy. He encloses sunshine. Winds bend the flowers in combers across the valley. Birds hang on the stiff wind. At night there are showers, and the sun lifts through a haze every morning of the summer in the stomach.
Last songs. What do they sing, the last birds coasting down the twilight, banking across woods filled with darkness, their frayed wings curved on the world like the arms which form, night after night, in sleep an irremediable absence. Whatever it is that keeps us from heaven, sloth, wrath, greed, fear, let us reinvent it on earth as song. How many nights have I lain in terror, O Creator Spirit, only to walk out the next morning over the frozen world, hearing under the creak of boots faint, peaceful breaths, snake, bear, earthworm, ant, and above me a wild crow crying, yaw, 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 from a branch nothing has cried from ever in my life. The fly I've just brushed from my eyebrow keeps whining about me, the insane keeper of my soul. One day I think I may learn to put up with that mizzling, innocuous stroll on my eyelid, or even to seize on this burnt music with love. Emily Dickinson adored the bee above all creatures, for he sings better than the fly. He has yellow grass on his back. He resembles the fleur-de-lis. He brings sexual love to the narcissus flower. He stings and dies, and everything he touches is opening, opening. But she loved that fly last, that dung fly last, that absolute last, that naked, dirty discontent last.
Plaint of the Poet in an Ignorant Age. I would I had a flower boy. I'd sit in the mid of an untamed wood, away from tame suburbs beyond the trees. With my botany boy to fetch and find, I'd sit in a rocker by a pot of cold coffee, noodling in a notebook on my knee, calling, "Flower boy, name me that flower. Read me the tag on that tree." But here I sit by an unlit fire, swizzling 3 martinis, while 1,000 metaphors doze outdoors, and the no-bird sings in the no-name tree. I would I had a bug boy with a bug book and a butterfly net to bring me nature in a basket of leaves, a bug on a leaf by the goldfish bowl. I'd sit in a rocker with a pocket full of pine nuts and a nutcracker knocking my knee, cracking nuts, jokes, and crying to my bug boy, "Read me the caterpillar on the leaf. Count me the number of nibbled veins by the tree's light in the fire," while I in my rocker rolled and called, and a caterpillar crawled on the long-named leaf. If I had a boy of Latin and Greek, in love with 11-syllable leaves, hanging names like halos on herbs and shrubs, a footnote lad, a lexicon boy, who would run in a wreath around my rocker, to kneel at my chair, at my knee, saying, "Here is your notebook, here is your pen, I have found you a marvelous tree." But all I have is a poetry boy, a bottle-cap king. He cries, thudding from the garden, "What do you call the no-bird that sings in the no-name tree?" Love poem. Oh, to fall easily, easily, easily in love, as nursling birds tumble from the nest, not prey into the dog's jaws. True lovers of women tend to love not grossly, but in gross lots, without deduction for tear, tret, or waste, Webster says. Love every look, think each new taste the best. Oh, to fall in love easily, easily, as a mild child falls to at the breast, not as an iron-jawed child clamps on. To inhale all sweet ambience, breezily exhale flowered breath, while rapturously curls the pillowed fist, toes clenched in comfort, each new taste the best. Oh, love, easily, easily, easily to fall, as fledgling bird or child is lost within a plot, not acres away, only to turn around and find the haven that has not moved at all. Learn, lose, and find without much cost, terror smoothed in feathered, ruffled bosom, and easily love, easily to rest.
Burning the cat. In the spring, by the big shuck pile between the bramble-choked brook where the copperheads curled in the first sun and the mud road, all at once it could no longer be ignored. The season steamed with an odor for which there has never been a name, but it shouted above all. When I went near, the woodlice were in its eyes and a nest of beetles in the white fur of its armpit. I built a fire there by the shuck pile, but it did no more than pop the beetles and singe the damp fur, raising a stench of burning hair that bit through the sweet day smell. Then, thinking how time leches after indecency, since both grief is indecent and the lack of it, I went away and fetched newspaper and wrapped it in dead events, days and days, soaked it in kerosene and put it in with the garbage on a heaped nest of sticks. It was harder to burn than the peels of oranges bubbling and spitting, and the reek was like rank cooking that drifted with the smoke out through the budding woods and clouded the shining dogwood. But I became stubborn. I would consume it, though the pyre should take me a day to build and the flames rise over the house. And hours I fed that burning till I was black and streaked with sweat, and poked it out then, with charred meat still clustering thick around the bones, and buried it so as I should have done in the first place, for the earth is slow but deep and good for hiding. I would have used it if I had understood how 9 lives can vanish in one flash of a dog's jaws, a car, or a copperhead, and yet how one small death, however reckoned, is hard to dispose of. The eyes of the drowned watch keels going over. Where the light has no horizons we lie. It dims into depth, not distance. It sways like hair, then we shift and turn over slightly. As once on the long swing under the trees in the drowse of summer we slid to and fro slowly in the soft wash of the air, looking upwards through the leaves that turned over and back like hands, through the birds, the fathomless light, upwards. They go over us swinging jaggedly, laboring between our eyes and the light, churning their wrought courses between the sailing birds and the awed eyes of the fish, with the grace of neither nor with the stars' serenity that they follow. Yet the light shakes around them as they go. Why? And why should we, rocking on shoal pillow, with our eyes cling to them, and their wakes follow, who follow nothing? If we could remember the stars in their clarity, we might understand now why we pursued stars, to what end our eyes fastened upon stars, how it was that we traced in their remote courses not their own fates, but ours.
Statute. The way I would look at the world, the houses take up half, the horizon moves straight across the view, and the base half is houses, the roof lines of houses, marking off the blue. By what aerial license would it be possible to promote any other line? The piteous valley vista or the terrible subordination seen by plane? I would legislate against the Icarian downfall as against the ascent of F6, and take care that the great legal skies of human vision observe their human shore. Idea of joy. The idea of joy abruptly, like the idea of day, came and clothed the body of the lady in an array as of field or fire, and she withheld any comment on the procedure until it was revealed that, garmented in this glory and clothed in this joy, she was at a loss for words completely and knew not how to say. So that I write for her with secretarial speed what she would have faithfully conceived and said, that it was not joy that dressed her, so sudden as the day, so bright as the fire, but the idea of joy. Expectation. 400 children expect from one another, each what from himself he has ceased to demand, each demanding because as from his brother degree of devotion none can understand. So I from you, by what myth of loving relation, who could fathom but a mythologizing friend, require, request, receive after such fashion I can imagine, but not comprehend. And kind. When I think of my kindness, which is tentative and quiet, and of yours, which is intense and free, I am, in elaboration of knowledge, impatient of even the patientest immobility. I think of my kind, which is the human fortune to live in the world and make war among its friends, and of my version, which is to be moderately peaceful, and of your version, and must make amends by my slow word to your wish, which is mobile, active, and moving in its generous sphere. This is the natural and the supernatural of humankind, of which I grow aware.
Oil. Soft rain squalls on the swells, south of the Bonins late at night. Light, from the empty mess hall, throws back bulky shadows of winch and fair lead over the slanting fantail where I stand. But for men on watch in the engine room, the man at the wheel, the lookout in the bow, the crew sleeps in cots on deck or narrow iron bunks down drumming passageways below. The ship burns with a furnace heart, steam veins and copper nerves, quivers and slightly twists, and always goes, easy roll of the hull and deep vibration of the turbines underfoot, bearing what all these crazed, hooked nations need, steel plates and long injections of pure oil. An autumn morning in Shokokiji. Last night watching the Pleiades, breath smoking in the moonlight, bitter memory like vomit choked my throat. I unrolled a sleeping bag on mats on the porch under thick autumn stars. In dream you appeared 3 times in 9 years, wild, cold, and accusing. I woke shamed and angry, the pointless wars of the heart, almost dawn, Venus and Jupiter, the first time I have ever seen them close. Hop, skip, and jump. The curved lines toe-drawn, round-cornered squares bulge out doubles from its single pillar line like Venus of the Stone Age. She takes stone with a white quartz band for her lagger. She takes a brown stained salt sticky cigarette butt. He takes a mussel shell. He takes a clam shell. She takes a stick. He is tiny, with a flying run and leap, shaggy blonde, misses all the laggers, tumbles from one foot. They are dousing a girl in a bikini down the beach, first with cold seawater, then with wine. Double leg, single leg, stork, stalk, turn, on the end square, hop, fork, hop, scoop the laggers. We have all tripped and fallen. Surf, rough, and full of kelp. All the ages. Draw a line on another stretch of sand, and everybody try to do the hop, skip, and jump.
The star in the hills. A star hit in the hills behind our house, up where the grass turns brown, touching the sky. Meteors have hit the world before, but this was near, and since TV. Few saw, but many felt the shock. The state of California owns that land, and out from shore 3 miles, and any stars that come will be roped off and viewed on weekdays, 8 to 5. A guard who took the oath of loyalty and denied any police record told me this: if you don't have a police record yet, you could take the oath and get a job if California should be hit by another star. I'd promise to be loyal to California and to guard any stars that hit it, I said, or any place 3 miles out from shore, unless the star was bigger than the state, in which case I'd be loyal to it. But he said no exceptions were allowed, and he leaned against the state-owned meteor so calm and puffed a cork-tipped cigarette that I looked down and traced with my foot in the dust and thought again and said, okay, any star. Things we did that meant something. Thin as memory to a bloodhound's nose, being the wedge of some new knowing, I often glance at a winter color, husk or stalk, a sunlight touch, maybe a wasp nest in the brush near the winter river with silt like silver. Once with a slingshot I hit a wasp nest, without direction but sure of right, released from belief and into act, hornets planed off by their sincere faith. Vehement response for them was enough, patrolling my head with its thought like a moth. Sometime the world may be hit like this, or I getting lost may walk toward this color far in old sunlight with no trace at all, till only the grass will know I fall. In the museum. Like that, I put the next thing in your hand. This piece of rock the farthest climbers found. Or this, a broken urn, volcano finished. Later, you'll walk out and say, where's home? There will be something lacking in each room, a part you held and casually laid down. You never can get back, but there will be other talisman. You have learned to falter in this good way. Stand still, walk on, remember. Let one by one things come alive like fish and swim away into their future waves.
The Red Bird Tapestry. Now I put on the thimble of dream to stitch among leaves the red node of his body and fasten here the few beads of his song. Of the tree, a cage of gilded spines, to palace his scarlet, cathedral his cry, and a ripple from his beak I sew, a banner bearing 7 studs, this scarf to be the morning that received his stain. I do with thought instead of actuality, for it has flown. With glinting thimble I pull back that freak of scarlet to his throne. To worship him, enchanted cherry to a tree that never bore such fruit, who tore the veil of possibility and swung here for a day, a never-colored bird, a never music heard, who doubly wanded, then looped away. To find in hollow of my throat his call and try his note on all the flutes of memory, until that clear jet rinses me that was his single play. For this I wear his daring and his royal eye. Now perfected, arrested in absence, my needle laid by and spread my hand, His claws on stems of my fingers fastened, rooted my feet and green my brow. I drink from his beak the 7 beads dropping. I am the cage that flatters him now. This one is Working on Wall Street. What's left of the sunset's watered blood settles between the slabs of Wall Street. Winter rubs the sky bruised blue as flesh. We head down into the subway, glad the cars are padded with bodies so we keep warm. Emptied from tall closets where we work on the day's shelves reached by elevators, the heap of us pressed by iron sides dives forward under the city, parcels shipped out in a trunk. The train climbs from its cut to the trestle. Sunset's gone. Those slabs across the murky river have shrunk to figurines reflecting the blush of neon, a dainty tableau all pink on the dresser top of Manhattan, eclipsed as we sink into the tunnel. The train drops and flattens for the long bore under Brooklyn. Night, a hiatus hardly real. Tomorrow this double rut of steel will racket us back to the city. We packages in the trade made day after day will tumble out of hatches on the street to be met by swags of wind that scupper off those roofs, their upper windows blood-filled by the sun. Delivered into lobbies, clapped into upgoing cages, sorted to our compartments, we'll be stamped once more for our wages.
A day with literature. Likenesses crowd the morning, lazy similes. In a hole in the sky, a cave in the leaves, the mind, grubbing, finds what it wants, voyages, loves, gaieties, and says to itself, "This day marks a beginning. From this day forward," and other quotations from high school texts. Like bird, then, is morning, soaring like bird, butterfly, cloud, and free as these. And now it is noon. The mind from its nest looks down, notes a certain stagnation, a less than heavenly faltering in romance, for a nap, perhaps, as clouds and leaves lose color, luster, and birds, where visible, seem not as free as their textbooks, shelved, muttering, "Let us wander no more, home is a hammock," and such like. And now it is much, much later, darker. The similes, darker, creak in their corners, peer through their slits, as the mind, on its bent again, flaps wings, flaps off, croaking, of towers, heaths, sepulchres, midnight faces, and verses, windy and dark, in empty places. The poem is called The Popular Magazines. The popular magazines line the shelves of the drugstores of the land with their cover pictures of Hollywood starlets, new model cars, and so forth. And as the customers come to purchase their toothpaste, they pause one by one for a moment before this display, love in their eyes. Love, says Socrates, love cannot be of nothing, nor of something one already has. Therefore, love is of something one hasn't. The lovers pause by the racks, their saliva working. And since there can be no love of the ugly, the something the lovers have not but lovingly wish for must be something not ugly but lovely. No? Yes. And the Hollywood starlets and new model cars posture brightly before their lovers. Up in the sky, the heavenly racks are heavily laden. Agathon and the others are driving their horses to see the penultimate starlet driving her Thunderbird. They move at a pretty good clip, their saliva working. Down below, the customers pause for a moment, saliva working, and Socrates, watching, sees that their love is of nothing, and that this nothing is ugly, and that, furthermore, they do not have it at all, for lo, they have bought it, and are moving away to the back of the store for their toothpaste. Socrates sees all this, tears in his eyes.